Right, and still going uphill over the crest. The ground starts falling away, hard on the gas. It's not straight through here, but the curves are gentle enough to keep it going all the way through the sweeps until you start thinking about braking for turn 3. This is a very hard right, and it's followed by another crest with the track curving away to the right, and it's fast again as it starts to drop away. Looking for the 100-metre board now to start braking for turn 4. It's another right, and the track is dropping away again. In fact, you're on the far side of the hill, and the land just dips away. Keep turning and keep going downhill. Ready for some hard braking here, and a hard left coming up. Turn 5 isn't quite a 180, but it's close enough. On the gas now, bottoming out into turn 6 as the road climbs away to the left, still climbing as you head towards 7. Up and up it goes. Here comes another crest, and now downhill on the other side. Heading into the right-hander here, which you must get right, because the next one is harder still, and you need to be accelerating through this one, because it brings you back out onto that long uphill front straight, and you need all the power for the big uphill slog in front of you. After torrential overnight rain that threatened to drown the Austrian paddock completely, Sunday morning was clear and bright, although dark clouds still clustered around the mountain tops that ring the circuit. But not a cloud in the sky for polemen Hasemans and Coronel, though, and certainly this was a good day for Wolfgang Kaufmann, whatever the weather. An unfamiliar starting position for Julian Bailey back on row 2, and doubtless remembering being punted off in Budapest. Pole position is a great place to avoid turn 1 incidents. And their position is made worse by the fact that the Belmondo cars are both behind, and both will be trying to get forwards as quickly as they can, anxious to join the championship battle with Lister. So this is going to be a very busy start line in just a few moments. And it won't just be busy up front, it's going to be busy mid-grid as well, where the NGT battle is every bit as fierce, and the qualifying times in the rain may not mean too much. Ready for the rolling start, as always. Pole position on the left of the screen, that is Mike Haseman starting in the number 25 car. Wolfgang Kaufmann beside him as they go away on the warm-up lap in the black and white Freisinger Porsche with the yellow mirrors. Great starting position for him, and a good opportunity to get the car to a good finish. Julian Bailey will be looking to come off the line as hard as he can. Here comes the opposition. Both of the Belmondo cars are right behind him, and they'll both be looking for a way through. Jarier makes a return to the series, the number 29 Viper. Just a glimpse of it there in the picture, making occasional appearances throughout the year. This is what it looks like up front though, and as we said, the rain really might mean that this is fairly unimportant. Kaufmann alongside the poleman, although more than a second slower on his best lap, and in the changeable conditions of Saturday, that may not be significant unless the miserable weather comes back. Warm-up might be more significant, but it's still Haseman that you need to look out for. Mike Haseman and Tom Coronel have more or less dominated qualifying and practice all through this weekend. Everybody else has been pretty much on a par, and they have been in a class by themselves. If that translates to the same level of difference in warm, dry weather, then you can expect to see them doing rather well in this race. On board with Jürgen von Gartzen in the Conrad Porsche. Lots of trouble in qualifying. It was an engine problem. They found out what it was. They've got it sorted. The car's running okay, but they haven't really found a race setup. But again, conditions are different today, so maybe that doesn't matter too much. Going round for the start then. The grid. They've been warming their tyres, as you saw, gradually closing up and assuming the position as they come round the final corner. The safety car has pulled off. Roland Brunzerider is ready to make the decision. Are they all in the right place? Julian Bailey creeping towards the centre as they come down towards the start line. This is round 7. 116 laps, 500 kilometres. It might just go the full distance, and Mike Hazeman has got it going up the hill into turn 1. It's Kaufman behind him in second place. Then the number 12 Belmondo car in third place, and look at them. 3 and 4 abreast round the corner. Luca Riccitelli being swapped. There goes the Conrad Porsche, so it's definitely running better now than it was during qualifying. Number 22 was Nico Vieth. Also going through, so the GT2 cars clearly a little bit quicker in the dry than they were in the wet. Race order: Hazeman, Kaufman, then it was number 12, de Richebourg, and then number 11, and then Julian Bailey dropping back at the start. So the championship leader, the black number 14 car, just going back down the order. Jürgen von Gartzen, what's he going to do here? Looking for a pass on Constantino Bertuzzi in the number 55 NGT car and getting it, moving up through the field. 3 hours to go, wants to get on terms with the men up the front. This circuit seems to suit the Porsches for some reason. And that is Günther Kranzler, and the Lamborghini team's problems go from bad to worse. Off it goes, and is he coming back to rejoin us? Kept the engine running, might be back. Private accident, this one, had it all by himself, just lost the back end, couldn't get it back, and off he goes into the dirt. Lucky not to come back on track and collect half the GT2 Porsches coming down the hill behind him. Race leader Mike Hazeman, second place, looking very strong as well. The number 3 Freisinger car of Wolfgang Kaufmann, and then round they come. It's the Belmondo men with Philippe Favre in the sandwich. We're on board with Luca Riccitelli, working very hard, staying on track. Well, he really is working hard coming out of that final corner. Now coming up the hill past the start-finish line. And Mike Hazeman appears to be moving away at the front. He's taking Wolfgang Kaufmann with him, but everybody else struggling. You're looking there at the number 29 Viper of Jarier, pursued by the Belmondo car that is in front of the championship leader and being pressed hard by number 21. Luca Capillari is looking very anxious about getting on with passing. And coming alongside, I think he's done it. Well, it looks as though Julian Bailey could well be in trouble. This is the championship leader we're looking at, and quite frankly, he is slipping back down the field. Oh dear, Christophe Bouchard trailing smoke, or steam. That was probably steam. The radiators are up front in that car, and it looks as though he slapped the front on something. Not quite sure what that was all about. Belmondo pressing forward. Paul Belmondo can sense that this championship might just be about to topple in his general direction. The Lister has definitely felt the effects of its success. Ballast, the full 100 kilos here. The new smaller inlet restrictor has just tipped the scales and balanced this championship very nicely. Now with average luck, Belmondo could be on with a good chance of victory in this year's series. Philippe Favre in the second of the Listers. Third and fourth place then. There's Hazeman. There's Wolfgang Kaufmann. Here's the battle for third place, and Philippe Favre is looking for his opportunity. Not going to find it there, but he's definitely looking to move up a place, while Julian Bailey seems to be struggling, and you've got to say that's a car problem. Number 15, remember, doesn't have all that extra ballast. So maybe finding the A1 ring just a little bit more to its liking. 30 kilos it's carrying here, so it's at least 70 kilos less than the other one. This is definitely radiator trouble. This could be a big problem for the NGT series leaders. There's the new radiator waiting to be fitted. So it's touched something or somebody, and now he's going to be in there for a good 5 or 10 minutes while that radiator is changed. This battle continues. Philippe Favre trying as hard as he can to move up on the Viper in front of him. Well, the Belmondo team carrying their share of excess ballast as well. The number 11 car has 20 kilos, but the number 12 car has 70 in total. And these two looking fairly evenly matched at the moment. Philippe Favre, for all that he can follow that Viper and could probably go just a little bit quicker if the track was empty, cannot get past it, but maybe they're carrying the fight forwards to Wolfgang Kaufmann. He's just losing touch with Mike Hazeman in the orange Viper, and this little battle, quite intense as you can see, is just beginning to move a little bit further forwards and close the gap on second place. And any moment now they're going to come up behind that number 3 Porsche, and when they do, it will be decision time for both of these drivers. Hard to see a difference between these two cars as they're here. The Lister looks as though, and that is Luca Capillari, who was going so well earlier on. We saw him move up on Julian Bailey and get past the number 14 car, but he obviously got a little bit carried away with his success and has now got himself stuck in the gravel trap. That is going to require some assistance to come out of there. NGT, of course, as we've seen, as we ride on board with Luca Riccitelli, is very serious as well. The GT2 Porsches going through, we've seen that they are much quicker in the dry, but this is the battle for the GT lead. Constantino Bertuzzi is the man we are looking at now, or rather we're looking at the back end of his car. Luca Riccitelli has got this one framed up for a pass. He's looking for a way round, and here it is. Nice piece of work from Riccitelli, very nice indeed. He's been so quick this year. There's something hanging off the back of his car though, and he's obviously had a bit of contact, and it may well be that the back end of the 77 car and the damage to the front end of the 52 car are not completely unrelated. These two, Boucher and Gooselard and Riccitelli, and it's just hanging on to it there, have had a little bit of rivalry as this series has gone by, and it may well be that they have touched, and the damage to Riccitelli's doesn't look as bad as the damage was to the 52 car, because that, oh dear, runs wide. Philippe Favre, 2 wheels just on the grass, manages to hang on to it. Well, you can see for yourself that he is definitely in a hurry, definitely wants to get on with passing the Viper, and just cannot do it. Boris de Richborg hanging on in front of him as Riccitelli has been passed again by Bertuzzi. So the NGT battle raging very fiercely up front. Now, these exhaust pipe definitely that is flopping about under there, and that won't do it any good. It won't just make the engine louder, it can do all sorts of other things. And again, Riccitelli dives through under brakes, manhandles it round the corner on the gap and over the crest. Nice work from Riccitelli, but somehow or other Bertuzzi seems to have the matter of him. Well, side by side they are now, and it looks as though the ART car might just be marginally faster. Watch it go away uphill. It certainly pulls out of that corner and away over the crest. And Riccitelli has it all to do again, close up under brakes and get past once again. Can't do it here. Well, we've seen an hour-long battle in NGT defused by the pit stops, and only the pit stops, and it's shaping up to be more of the same. Riccitelli just hanging on to the curb. That's where the Lamborghini went sideways, remember, but this time no mistake for Richard. Takes a lot of curve there, lets it run wide, and he's got a bit of a lead now. He's pulled out a length or so on Constantino Bertuzzi, and maybe this time it's going to stick. Number 14, Lister, is it going to be passed by the Conrad Porsche? Well, it does look as though Julian Bailey has got some kind of problem beyond the obvious one of ballast and inlet restrictor. 27 coming into the pits for a stop-go penalty. Marco Spinelli must be stationary for 10 seconds, and right up the curb goes Jürgen von Gartzen and launches himself past the Belmondo Viper. Well, that was an extraordinary move, but it paid off. He still hasn't got the Lister, but the pair of them have gone through, and Julian Bailey hustling the Lister, but it's hard to avoid the suspicion that all is not well in the cockpit of the number 14 car. Ricciatelli ahead of the two ART cars, and look at this, 56 coming in as well, 4 of them in a row. That was Tim Sugden in the MK GTC. Oh, he spun it! Ricciatelli has spun it from the top of the hill, and the others go past. Watch for 56 as well. The whole lot of them have gone through. Well, this is now the battle for NGT lead, and it is a battle, isn't it? Look at these three, 2 teammates and 1 who isn't. Ricciatelli's gathered it all up, no harm done, but he won't be pleased with himself over that. What he must do now is just take a deep, calm breath and carry on and see if he can't reel in the 3 ahead of him and then try and pass them. This is an unscheduled stop for the number 50 Pennzoil Porsche coming in. The crew are ready, as you can see, for Magnus Wallander. But it's early and they're all looking very concerned, clustering around there. Refueling is more or less a natural reaction to a car in the pit lane, but there is another problem that has brought that in, and it could be transmission. He's having trouble, or he was having trouble, his teammate being passed out on track by this battle that has been going on since almost lap 1. And Philippe Favre has pulled, oh no he hasn't, ooh, just skates it round there, on board with Boris de Richbourg in the number 12 car, and just managed to stay ahead then. He had the line. Philippe Favre had a look down the inside, and it's quite clear that his car is a little bit handier than his teammate number 14. It's clear that that 70 kilos makes a world of difference, especially here where it's all uphill and down dale and there's so much braking to be done as well. The ballast really affects the car under acceleration and braking, and that's what you need a lot of around here, and you can see that it is definitely working against the number 14 car. Still hard to believe that Julian Bailey hasn't got some other kind of problem as well, but at the moment Boris de Richbourg's problem is wing mirrors full of black and white Lister. Definitely transmission problem for this car. It could be something as simple as the cable operated gear change, but whatever it is, it's taking a bit of a while to fix. And it's the first chink in the Pennzoil armour that we have seen in 7 rounds really. They've mounted a fairly serious campaign, fairly flawless as well, and always been in the thick of the action. And this action is fairly thick as well. Boris de Richbourg continues to be attacked by Philippe Favre, and the gap between these two cars has been constant for getting on for an hour now, except on the occasions when Philippe Favre has tiptoed up the inside and then dropped back, as we saw here a lap ago. He's been on the grass as well. It's been a constant battle, big strain for both the drivers, concentrating on so many things, trying to think their own strategy and campaign through, as well as drive the car and keep it on the black stuff. And that time it happened without any trouble at all. And now we'll see. We've said we thought the Lister would be quicker on an empty track, and it's looking like that almost at once. Does seem, oh dear, right up under brakes, but watch the list to go now as he gets on the gas. Philippe Favre is definitely quicker. And Boris de Richburg, I think he's going to be seeing less and less of that black car. And that's another problem for Lamborghini in the pits. Engine problems, quite obviously, for the number 24 car. And that is a shame, as race leader Mike Hazeman continues up front to just ease away from everybody else. This is exactly the situation that every racing driver wants, just to be marginally quicker than everybody else. Here is Luca Riccitelli, who has been so marginally quicker than everybody else in NGT that he's now back on the tail of the number 56 car. Remember, we saw him spin and drop back, and now here he is knocking on the back door. Tim Sugden can feel Riccitelli's breath on the back of his neck. Closing up on the Mac Porsche, and that might be interesting because they're going to pass him, and just how that falls for them will perhaps decide which one of them goes beyond the Mac Porsche in the lead. Riccitelli so hard into these corners under brakes, looks for his option. Oh dear, well, the number 56 car went right up on the curbs there and got a bit sideways and got a bit of a slap as well from Riccitelli in the corner. There wasn't a great deal he could do about it. Tim Sugden was on the curb and sideways, and as you saw, Riccitelli just slapped into the back of him. And that's a piece, I would think, of the number 56 Porsche lying on the track. And it's quite a big piece as well. Let's have a look from outside the car. There is Sugden up on the curbs, as you saw, and then there is the touch from Luca Riccitelli, who was really caught in that sandwich. But all Tim Sugden knows is he's just been poked from behind. Well, you can see the damage to the tail end of his car. Riccitelli on with the job. He's going past him. You can sympathise with both drivers. Tim Sugden believes that he's been assaulted from the rear, and there's no reason why he shouldn't. He will not know what we just saw, that Luca Riccitelli had no real option and nowhere else to go. But it's obviously done some harm to that car because he's slowing immediately. Riccitelli is on and away, and it would appear that the damaged exhaust we saw on Riccitelli's car isn't going to be a problem for him. Pit stop time for number 51. This is scheduled stuff in the pits now, as Robert Nan comes in and makes his stop, and that's unscheduled for the Chamberlain Viper. Recovers and continues. We're on board with Jürgen von Gartzen in the Conrad car, and just sneaking past, is he, getting beyond Jarier? Well, Jarier seemed to be in a little bit of difficulty there, and he's recovered very quickly though. Jean-Pierre Jarier's got over his moment of excitement, whatever it was, and whips past Jürgen von Gartzen in no time at all. This is your race leader. Still faultless work from Mike Hazeman and of course from the car. And into the pits comes the number 15 lister. Philippe Favre has defused this battle he's been having all through the first hour with de Richburg, and Emmanuel Clerico, that unmistakable striped crash helmet, waits to take over. Bantam Voss currently doing well enough to be fourth in his 24-hour race, so his car is not only running, but running very nicely. Thank you. No surprise to find he won't be back. Race leader in the pits. This is the stop for Hazeman, and it's fingers crossed all round for Car Sport Holland. No cross threads on the wheel nuts, no problems getting the fuel line in. Absolutely everything needs to go smoothly, and they need to come out in the lead. Tom Coronel, we've seen, was very quick in qualifying, adapted to GT racing this year from Formula Nippon and single-seaters. and immediately adapted to the Viper. His first experience of it this weekend, but you could hardly tell from the outside. Everything going according to plan, so this looks like a good stop for them. This is the race leader at the moment, though. And how about that? We've got a Porsche in the lead of a GT race. Wolfgang Kaufmann in the Freisinger car, out in front, but of course has yet to stop. So it's all going to change when the pit stops begin to happen. And imagine really that the status quo will be restored and everything will go back to the way it was. Except, of course, for number 51. We've seen problems for this team this weekend for the first time, and now it is problems for Proton as well. That's the Proton Porsche being pushed into the pits, and that's the Pennzoil Porsche being pulled off the track. This is Julian Bailey handing over to Jamie Campbell Walter at the end of the first hour. Well, no concern there, and here comes the race leader, or what was the race leader. This is Wolfgang Kaufmann coming in. Out goes Jamie Campbell Walter in the Lister, and this is Tom Coronel assuming the lead of this race as the pit stops happen around him. He's made his stop, he is back out, and away he goes as we wait for pit stops in NGT. Into the pits comes Fabio Mancini. The team having a very good race indeed, trying to keep it that way. Collini in the car. This is Clerico, who is getting past the Freisinger Porsche already, so Grasser just a little bit slower than Wolfgang Kaufmann was on his out laps after the first round of pit stops, but there's still 2 more hours to go. The NGT battle continues to rage here at the A1 ring, and they're taking it in turns up the front. Luca Riccitelli always seems to be... Oh, and that is going backwards. Fernando Lesseps. And the rim is damaged. It looks like contact in the corner there. The right rear rim is damaged. The tyre still seems to be up, but he's beached on the curb, and he's just not getting away. The corner workers will be there any second to boost him over the hump and allow him to go back to the pits. This is the race leader, though. Tom Coronel took over after the first hour from Mike Hazeman, and this team, these drivers, have not put a foot wrong all weekend, running like clockwork, which was what was happening last time down at Zolder, so let's hope it doesn't happen again. Gottfried Grasser in the number 3 car with Jamie Campbell Walter breathing down his neck. The Lister has definitely suffered here at the A1 ring, and the Porsche has not only been nimbler, watch him now under brakes and through the turns, but actually can get away quicker out of the corners, loses a bit uphill, but on sheer drive out of a flat corner, that number 3 Freisinger car can run away from the number 14 Lister Storm here in Austria, and that is the number 29 Viper of La Font, who had a touch with Ferdinand de Lesseps. That's why the rear rim was damaged on the Chirot Porsche, so both of them have paid the penalty for that one. Jamie Campbell Walters is determined to make the Porsche pay the penalty. Through he goes there. This is the battle for third place, so it's fairly serious. That is not too serious, and it will be back on track momentarily. This has been very serious since the green lights came on and fired this grid up the road and into that hard right-hander. NGT has really been the feature of the day again. Mike Hazeman has made it look easy even when it isn't, and it never is in motor racing, but these boys have made it look difficult from the word go. Somehow or other, it's always been hard work. Dieter Questa and Pierangelo Maselli now. Dieter Questa really showing his local knowledge. And that is retirement for Yukihiro Ohana in the second of the Freisinger cars. Parks it and walks away. Disappointment for them. The team has had quite a good weekend at the races here, which is more than you can say for Lister. They've had trouble since they arrived, really. They've been struggling. They knew they would. They expected it. They're not too dispirited, but it's not the dominant performance we have grown used to seeing from them. So Philippe Favre back out in the 15 car. No problems up front. Oh, problems here. What's this? Philippe Favre definitely slowing. He's hardly got back out after the pit stop. He's looking down into the car. There's smoke coming out the back of it, and that looks terminal. It's all over for Philippe Favre, who was about to get the number 15 car's best finish of the year. They were looking very... Oh, that's a disaster. That is Jamie Campbell-Walter, and that is the second lister, as it was in the running order, their lead car normally, and it's going nowhere. It's out of this race, and all of a sudden, the championship has changed. We said at the beginning that Paul Belmondo could really sense that the championship was about to go his way, and it may well be that here at the A1 ring that has just happened. Both listers are out of the race, so the team's championship could well change hands here as Mike Hazeman comes out into the pit lane, waiting for Tom Coronel to bring the Carsport Holland Viper in for its pit stop, and you can see that it was transmission problems for the lister as it's towed rather roughly away by the corner workers. Lawrence Pierce won't be too keen on that one, but never mind. Here comes the Carsport Holland car. Tom Coronel done a brilliant job all through today. He's done an excellent job in qualifying over the last couple of days, and now all that remains is for Mike Hazeman to hang on to a substantial lead. Well, the lead changes hands while that car's in the pits, but of course everybody else has to stop as well. Out goes Hazeman. And we'll, oh, look at the back end of the number 77 car, Luca Riccitelli. What has happened to the tail end of the Red Bull Porsche? Large chunks of bodywork sticking out at odd angles. It's obviously been clouted fairly severely, and obviously not been clouted by Coloni in number 57, who is following him now, and he's about to go past, because whatever the damage is that we can't see, it's definitely slowing that car. But Riccitelli, of course, seldom knows when to give up, and seldom does give up. Still struggling on. The race heading towards its close, but he surely can't expect to continue with the car like that. Boris de Richbourg in the number 12 Viper, and the Belmondo team looking for a good finish. There's a Porsche in their way, or at least there was, and it was the number 3 Porsche. Remains to see whether Wolfgang Kaufmann can get it to the finish and give the team another good result. A podium would be very nice, good reward for all their hard work. Giovanni Coloni, Luca Riccitelli, and half a Red Bull car. Christophe Bouchou coming into pit lane. He's just left it after the pit stop, and he's coming back in for a 10-second stop-go for pit lane speeding. Don't know whether that was on the entrance to the pit stop or the exit. Don't know if he's the guilty party, but the penalty goes to the car, and he will sit there in the sin bin and await those 10 interminable seconds. Splash and dash for the Hazeman car. They can afford it. This might cut their lead to under a minute, but that's about the worst that can happen, providing the car goes again when they want it to. This is getting very serious. We're heading towards the closing stages, and this is about second place. This is the race leader, and fires up and goes, absolutely no problems. He's going to rejoin with a lead slightly less than a minute, but it's still a very commanding lead. And Wolfgang Kaufmann would like to be second. He's currently in third place, and he's trying very hard and does it. Moves up on the number 12 car. And that's a blown tyre on the Chamberlain Viper. The return has not been a happy one, and for the Felbermayers who wanted a good result at home, it's not going to happen. This could be the best result of the week for Wolfgang Kaufmann and the Freisinger car, but there are 2 big yellow Vipers behind him. It may not last to the finish line. You're looking at the race leader, who does not have very far to go to the finish line. Mike Hazeman has won once already this year in this series, And it looks as though nothing can stop him claiming win number 2. Brakes on as he cruises home. Look at that, underlining it for the benefit of everybody watching. A totally dominant weekend for Car Sport Holland, for Mike Hazeman and for Tom Coronel. It is the second win of the season for Hazeman, who took a fine victory at round 3, Monza, and a well-deserved one as well. And that's just reward for a team that always tries hard and is always on the pace. Second was a good result for the Belmondo team this weekend, while third was a brilliant result for Freisinger, another team that always tries hard. Mondo boys for third place, but with both cars coming home, Belmondo have taken the lead in the team's championship. Stuff even for a class that always promised to be good, but has really become explosive as the season has gone by. After all the dramas, the Fia GT team were able to collect second place, with the second of the Red Bull cars in third place after the controversial clash with Riccitelli that sidelined the fast Italian and cost Bucciu $1,000 in fines. The Labra pair remain top of a points table that is now bound to change since Michel Neugarten
for Britain's historic Donington Park